Good morning. Welcome again to Kahului Hongwanji's online Sunday service. Today is June 7th. It's wonderful that we can continue to gather together in this way through kind of the miracle of YouTube, all this technology, and it allows us to fill the gap for not being able to gather in person. I wish we could be together in person and sharing this time together, but since we can't, this is a good thing that we have this, and we can still feel that we're having Sunday service again. So I hope you enjoyed today's service. We'll begin with the Vandana and Tisarana, followed by the chanting of English Jusege. After that, we will recite the Golden Chain of Love, and then I will share a message with you, kind of an important message at this time. And then after that, I will we will chant or recite the metta or the loving kindness meditation, and then conclude with the Nembutsu. So thank you very much for listening, for being here, I should say, and let's begin our service by reciting the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 I have made unrivaled vows and will reach the highest path. If I fail in any way, may I not attain Buddhahood. Should I not provide to all for countless kalpas to come, aid in times of suffering, may I not attain Buddhahood. I will reach enlightenment, but unless my Buddha name resounds throughout the universe, may I not attain Buddhahood. I will practice the noble path, wisely, mindfully, free of greed, seek to reach the supreme way, be a guide to one and all. May my shine great light to illumine and dispel the darkness of the three poisons, and save all from suffering. With eyes of wisdom I'll remove the darkness of ignorance. I will close all evil paths, open gates of highest good. When I attain Buddhahood, light will shine throughout all lands, light brighter than sun and moon, outshining all heavenly lights, giving my virtues to all, not forsaking anyone. I will proclaim the Dharma like the roar of a great lion, bowing before all Buddhas, steadfastly gaining virtues, with wisdom fulfilling my vows. I shall be a guide to all, like the wisdom of my teacher. May my wisdom also shine all throughout the universe, and illumine one and all. If I shall fulfill these vows, may all lands tremble with joy. From the heavens wondrous flowers rain down upon all the lands. Namon Dabu, Namon Dabu, Namon Dabu, Namon Dabu, Namon Dabu, Namon Dabu. The virtue of Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. Namo Amidas. Namo Amidas. Golden chain of love. I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're all holding up and keeping well. It's a difficult time with the coronavirus pandemic still going on, and really we don't know what's going to happen next, what the outcome is going to be. Are we going back to normal, or is there going to be another outbreak and so on? This one hasn't cleared up yet, so it's a difficult time. And then of course there is also the upheaval that's broken out in the last week or so, and that's also something that we need to reflect on. So I'd like to reflect on these things today, and really just mainly because this is a Dharma message, so we must reflect on ourselves as Buddhists And we live in this world, so how do we respond? What do we think about this? Up to you, of course. You have to make up your own mind and think about this thing, but I'd like to talk a little bit about maybe the context and give some Buddhist frame of reference for what's going on today. So let's begin by putting our hands together in Gasho and reciting the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. So, as they say, we're going through a hard time. So, we're months into this worldwide pandemic, and it continues to inspire fear and anxiety, and it requires from us, continues to require from people everywhere, a kind of an unselfish effort and some sacrifice, in many cases great sacrifice, to prevent this disease from causing more serious illness and more death to people. And there's already been a lot, so it's a matter of great concern. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's really been, not surprisingly, some bad economic consequences. And these consequences have been especially devastating to the poor and to the destitute. There are many destitute in this world who don't have the resources to stay at home, as most of us have been able to do, if they even have a home, right? And these many people have no means to socially distance. They're crowded together. In many places where people live are very crowded. No way to socially distance. They cannot survive without getting some kind of income for food and shelter. Our country, and countries all over the world, and the world community as a whole, was not prepared for this pandemic. Indeed, I think few of our leadership gave thought to such an eventuality. Most of the world's governmental and business leadership seemed to assume that things would always go their way, that nothing would ever interfere with the relentless pursuit of money and power that seems to drive our unequal and unjust societies. And though there were a lot of experts out there warning that a pandemic was coming, very few of us were ready. In this country, we did not have the hospital beds that we needed. Our leaders had canceled plans to procure the medical equipment and supplies that are necessary in the eventuality of such a pandemic, and we're still playing catch up with that. We neglected to make sure that everyone has access to medical care, as we stubbornly cling in this country to a kind of selfish and deluded conviction that only those who can afford insurance and medical care deserve to be treated. The result being, of course, that you have pockets where people cannot get medical care, and you have a lot of incidents of the virus. Anyway, all the elements seem to have been in place for a disaster to take place. And then on May 25th, something else unexpected happened, something that, to our great shame, happens frequently in this country. One individual, a man named George Floyd, had his life taken from him through an act of casual and cynical brutality by 3 other individuals who were supposed to be protectors, not judges and executioners. This is not a unique occurrence, as they say, and as is often the case, the subject of this brutality was a black man, George Floyd. Ordinarily, such events cause a wave of anger and resentment from black people and other minorities throughout this country, but this time something else unexpected happened. Maybe it was because of the accumulated frustration and anger brought about by the pandemic and by the lack of resources to help the very communities who most often suffer persecution and injustice. Whatever the reason, mass protests quickly erupted throughout the country, and not just black people who have the most urgent reason to be angry, but people of all races have come out to voice their demand for justice and equality, for democracy and fairness. Of course, there has also been some rioting, looting, and violence,
But a lot of the violence was not perpetrated by the protesters, but rather by law enforcement agents who continue to meet peaceful, unarmed demonstrators who are simply carrying out their constitutional right to assemble and protest with military force, tear gas, rubber bullets. It is a shameful and sickening situation. Situations like this are never simple, of course. They are complex. There are many people who will use any situation of unrest to benefit themselves. Some do so to make honest protesters look like they are lawless hooligans. Most of us can see through that. There are looters. Some are just hungry people suffering the economic impact of the pandemic. Some are just taking advantage, of course. And there are also a majority of good, just, and honest police personnel who want to protect the rights of citizens. Some people try to portray the situation as just hordes of violent rioters who need to be controlled by the government. This is an old lie. What do we actually see? We see dedicated, courageous people demonstrating for the rights of others, putting their lives, their well-being on the line to help rebuild and heal this country. And we have seen other remarkable things. In one video, you probably saw this, that policemen were kneeling with protesters as a way of showing their sympathy and solidarity. In another video, I saw protesters protecting a lone police officer who had become separated from the other police. They were protecting him from other angry protesters. You may also have seen the video of a lone woman stopping some men from looting a store, a very brave lone woman. These are isolated incidents, I suppose, but encouraging and inspiring nonetheless. And these incidents remind us that despite the complexity of this situation, we should not let our fears and fantasies about these protests distract us from the fairness of the oppressed people's demands for justice. Some people don't understand the anger of blacks and other minorities in this country. Despite all the evidence, many in this country continue to believe that anyone who is poor or disadvantaged is not oppressed, but simply lazy. The Buddha taught that this kind of thinking is the discriminating mind at work. For how can anyone ever know what another person has really gone through, is going through in their life, how hard they have struggled or worked, and what they have suffered? Some also say in a reasonable tone, "Why do black people get so angry? That won't solve the problem." I've heard all these comments, you know. Well, I have to let Martin Luther King Jr. respond to this. In a letter explaining the urgency of the need for justice, he wrote, "When you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your black brothers and sisters with impunity, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait." So what does it mean for us as Buddhists, particularly as followers of Shinran's teachings? What do these happenings mean for us? I am speaking to us now, you know, in this temple, or in our extended temple of all of our, wherever we are, you see, through this video. But I'm speaking to all of us, and the members of this church, and anyone really who's listening who identifies as a Buddhist. This is about being a Buddhist. Unfortunately, the radical message, the strong, deep, profound message of Buddhism is not clear to many people, not clear to many Buddhists, even those who come to temple every week, back when we could come to temple. It's easy to misunderstand Buddhism when your life is relatively easy, and your problems are mainly the ordinary problems of life: grieving for those we have lost, growing old, the sadness of impermanence, the difficulties of life that everyone, everywhere faces. When our life is not too exposed to destitution and oppression, we might think that Buddhism, or any faith a person may have, is mainly about comforting us in our difficult times, or about giving us a warm and cozy feeling of acceptance, continuity, connection with past generations, and confidence to face the future. Those are all fine things. Nothing wrong with Buddhism providing those things, but it's not unique to Buddhism. It's not Buddhism itself. Every religion provides these things. No one would belong to a religion that doesn't provide those things to them. But they are extras, not the main message. In our tradition, many people think that Buddhism is just for funerals, and so the message is not always heard, or if heard, not always well understood. However, the message of Buddhism, unfortunately, is not warm and cozy. Buddhism is fundamentally a call to wake up to ourselves, to become deeply aware of our selfish, deluded minds, to repent of our shameful cruelty toward others, and to find our true self in oneness with all beings. It is true that in Buddhism we accept the working of karmic conditions and realize that things happen because of causes, but it is wrong to think that the law of karma, causes and conditions, justifies any inequality or injustice in the community or in the world, or that we should allow it or just passively accept the mistreatment or injustice toward others with a shrug of our shoulders because, well, that's the way things are. We cannot do that. When Shakyamuni Buddha began to teach after his enlightenment, he created a community of those who were seeking to awaken to this true reality. What kind of community did he create? Was it an imitation of the secular world with its arbitrary use of power and authority? Was each individual's condition determined by social status, wealth, and class within the Sangha? On the contrary, the original Buddhist Sangha, instituted by Shakyamuni, was designed to make it possible for those who joined it to deeply follow the path of awakening without the distraction of all the things that society values. But its very existence was an explicit rebuke to the status quo of the society of his time. It was a critique of a system built on inequality, in which the majority of people are kept in poverty as the fruits of their work are enjoyed by the few who own the land. As has been the case throughout most of the history of civilization, the majority of the population lived always on the edge of destitution. The Sangha, by embracing destitution voluntarily as their way of life to follow the path, clearly showed everyone the emptiness of civilization's values by demonstrating through a life of total homelessness and possessionlessness that true happiness, true peace, comes from renouncing power and privilege, wealth and status, not from accumulating and possessing those things. Later, of course, this original ideal was diluted, and the Buddhist Sangha absorbed and incorporated the assumptions of inequality, for example, regarding women, that its members brought with them from society. As monks moved from their homeless life in the forest to life in large, beautiful temples full of priceless art and treasures, and became more and more dependent on donations from rich and powerful patrons, the original message was perhaps forgotten, at least by many. Nevertheless, there are many examples of Buddhists throughout history courageously standing up to criticize the injustices of the rulers of their time. Shinran Shonin himself was highly critical of the emperor and ministers of his day for their unjust policies and the desecration of the Dharma by the corrupt and hypocritical monks of his day. And that brings us finally back to ourselves. At this time, it is so important to remember the message of Buddhism. Our Buddhist faith, our Shinjin, our oneness with Amida, with boundless compassion, and hence with all beings, should awaken us to sympathy and understanding for the weak and the oppressed. We don't have to become homeless monks, but we can live our ordinary life with the realization that everything we have is a gift. We can realize that the sufferings of others are our sufferings. The sufferings of the oppressed are our sufferings. And we can ask ourselves, how am I going to treat others from now on? How am I going to open my heart to look out for and to care for those in true need? We have to ask ourselves these questions. And we need to ask, how long will we continue to give permission to the powerful of our age through passive acquiescence, our votes, our pocketbooks, etc., allowing them to ravage the land and refuse to share the rightful sustenance of life with everyone? I think it is now time to take the teachings of Buddhism seriously. I hope that you will reflect deeply on these things. Thank you very much for listening, and let us now put our hands together in Gassho and recite the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Please join me now for the chanting of the metta, or the loving kindness meditation. So let's put our hands together in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May I be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to me. May I live in peace and harmony. May my family be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my teachers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my friends be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May strangers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my enemies be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much for joining with us today for Kahului Hongwanji's weekly online service. These are difficult times, as I was talking about during the sermon, and a time for us to reflect and to think about what we can do to make the world a better place for everyone. That's really the Buddha's wish, that is the Bodhisattva vow. Amida Buddha represents that ultimate Bodhisattva that we are all part of, the wish that everyone, the aspiration for the happiness of all beings. A Bodhisattva never says, oh, I'm going to become a Buddha, I'm going to reach the top and then leave this world. A Bodhisattva always says, I'm going to stay here until every suffering being is liberated and brought to complete enlightenment. So that's really our wish too. That's our role as Buddhists. We should always be working for the well-being of others. So thank you very much for listening.
Please join us again next week for our regular Sunday service, and then the week after that we will have a reflection on fathers for Father's Day. So thank you very much, and let's conclude our service now by reciting the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida.